Bonjour. Je m'appelle Andrew Rosenman. Je travaille pour Smart, ici en Paris et aussi en New York. Je suis un Américain qui étudie le français en États-Unis, mais je ne vais pas présenter en français parce que je vous aime. I'm so glad that joke landed. That's good. Practice that. So, it's a lot of slides. We'll try to do it quickly. I feel like I might have overcompensated for not knowing what I was coming in for. So we'll run through some stuff. We've got 25 minutes. Hopefully it's what you want to see. Smart, for those who don't know, one of the sponsors here, been around 20 years. This is sort of our history. We're a global company, SSP, AdServer, DSP. Recently, very proud of the fact we were awarded by Digiday Best Video Ad Server just the other day, so quick little plug for my colleagues here. And this is really what we do. We manage across boundaries. And without spending too much time on this, you can see that our focus is on helping publishers reach audiences and advertisers reach those audiences through their publishers. So 5 sections. What do we mean by CTV? And I think it's important, having listened in and understood 51% of what I heard in French for the last day and a half, let's get some understanding of what we mean by connected television and what that means globally. The CTV universe, this will be a fairly fun section. Regional CTV did not do the entire globe. This is what I mean by having overcompensated. I had data on Turkey and South Africa and Indonesia, all of which I am sparing you from having to look at today. We'll just do a few markets that have some interesting data. Content sources, and I think this may be the, whoa, hit some gain. This may be one of the more interesting sections, just because where is this stuff coming from, right? What is this connected TV content that everybody wants to monetize, and does it come from the same place everywhere? And then selling and buying. So, in common practice, when we say CTV advertising, we're really talking about content that is also called over the top. So thanks to the IAB back in 2018, they gave us this definition of what is connected TV. So, just real quick, connected TV by definition is a platform. It's hardware. Now, that gets a little confusing because for the last day we've all heard, oh, the magic word, the magic letters are CTV, so we all want to advertise in CTV, but CTV is a platform. So, helpful guidance from the IAB. So OTT streaming services, some of which you may have heard of, Crackle and Hulu and Netflix, and these devices, so smart TVs, streaming devices, game consoles, that's a connected TV platform. Desktop and a laptop, phones, not a connected TV platform, but it gets worse. Because the good folks at the Media Ratings Council made it even easier and a nice way to understand it. If it's on the left side, it's OTT content, non-CTV because it goes to a desktop, mobile, tablet, web app, or it's in CTV and it could be on a smart TV, streaming device, game console, or set-top box. Is everyone confused? I think we learned yesterday from Terry Kawaja that it's complicated. This is the simplified version of how complicated it is, but just, I like number 1 and number 2. Is it on a TV? Then it's CTV. So let's just go with that. So this should hurt. This is a US-focused view of the media business. This is put together by someone I recommend highly you follow named Evan Shapiro. He was president of IFC and the Sundance Channel for a long time. He publishes these. These are not a lumiscape. He refers to these very large orbs you see in the corners as media death stars, and you'll understand why pretty soon. So if this doesn't give you an immediate headache, give me another 20 minutes and it will. It sort of shows who has dominance, but it also shows, necessarily some sort of scale. The more fun chart is this one, the CTV universe. And you see up there, I'm sorry, the legend is a little small. You'll see that he shows What we have on the left are platforms, and what we have on the right are streamers, streamers with leverage, streamers without leverage. Now this is where it gets really interesting. You'll see that the streamers without leverage include people like Amazon and Comcast and Google and Apple. Streamers with leverage include content owners and distributors like Netflix and Disney, Discovery Warner, Viacom CBS, Chinese, Tencent. So the real important takeaway, I think, from this one is other. So what you'll notice, and I think we've heard for the last couple of days, that there are only a couple of dominant platforms in the digital world. And we can name them. We know who they are. We've heard their names for the last couple of days. What's most fascinating about where we are in the course of the development of the connected TV advertising ecosystem is there is not a single dominant player. In the US, you can't throw a dead cat without hearing about Roku. But in Europe, makes very little impact. Actually, in Canada, we learned the other week, makes very little impact. Sony has a 12% stake. Samsung, who's making a great deal of progress around connected TV, actually only has 14% of the operating systems in the market. So when you see this degree of fragmentation, there's a lot of opportunity, and the real opportunity is in the other, because there are literally the battle. I'll just get to the point, right? The battle is going to be over the operating systems. In the same way the battle was over the operating systems for desktops and handhelds, it will be over the operating systems that power these smart TVs and these smart TV devices. Where we are now, there is no dominant player. Google obviously has their Android TV product. Amazon is coming strong with Amazon Fire. But at the moment, we have this wonderful moment sort of like in the mid to late 1990s when things were wide open with the open web. Now let's talk about devices, and let's talk about the world. Again, you see that Samsung with 14%, LG, one of the largest manufacturers in the world, only 7%. Amazon Fire and Roku have equal 6% market penetration. This is actually somewhat low. You see Android TV is on a par with Roku and Fire, which is less than half of what Samsung has, but none of them can really dominate the ecosystem yet. If you look in terms of, their regional brands, this is counting number of devices, 250 million. There are about 500 million connected TV sources or endpoints in the world today. That will double next year. Now let's talk about the business, right? And I think this is why everybody's so excited about it. These projections, and because they come from Bank of Montreal Capital Markets, they're from a Canadian bank, so I trust them. We're at the very beginning of what is going to be an extraordinary amount of share shift of spend from traditional media, including print, but also from the digital side, from those digital investments that may or may not be as strong. So you're talking about $8 to $10 billion per year for the next 8 years moving into this world, which is quite a lot. And I think we saw on the slide before, nobody is really owning it. So this is what we sometimes call the knife fight that's going to happen over this revenue. So real quick, I think I mentioned, we looked at quite a few regions. We don't have the time, and you don't have the patience to hear about every one of these regions and what's going on, so we focused on just a few. The Americas, and again, this is the quick takeaway. US and Canada, we'll see a lot of digital display and online video investment move to CTV. There are mature markets in Europe, and there are some really good infrastructure advantages that can be exploited here, and I'll explain why. Latin America, fascinating place to be operating. Can be difficult at times, but I think we're going to see in the next several years a very interesting progress in LATAM. This was published in today's Financial Times, and I included it, sort of a last-minute ad. These are the top 19. I'm sorry, my laptop wouldn't let me capture the top 20. I don't know who number 20 is after Turkey. But what's important here is that this is the forecast for 2024 for the size of the digital market. and it's measured in billions. What's interesting to me is that the red bar, not the pink bar, entertainment, how much of that makes up of digital markets around the world. And this is where we operate, right? This is what connected TV advertising is associated with. You see that it actually outpaces in a lot of these markets the connectivity and the amount of investment that goes into connectivity, which I thought was fascinating. Let's talk about the US real quick. Device ownership. So the single largest growing device category in the US for the last 2 years has been smart TVs. You see also the streaming. What's fascinating is that the smart TV devices with the built-in connected TV operating system surging, right, from 46 to 51%. That's fairly substantial. That's a 10% growth. Whereas the streaming stick device, like a Roku or another device you plug in to HDMI, that's pretty much flat. You notice also that PCs, phones, other devices, they're not growing. The forecast, this is a March 2021 forecast. I will update it. The one on the right is more recent. CTV ad spending in 2021 should reach about 14 billion. It will increase by about 5 billion in the US next year. The rate of growth was sort of extraordinary in 2021. I think that red line is a little, I'm not sure. They may come back and revise that. I think you'll probably be, I mean, the projection for 22 is a 32% rate of growth on a base of $14 billion. It's pretty good. So if your worst case scenario in 2024 is a 21.9% rate of growth to a $30 billion marketplace that was $6 billion 5 years before, that's growth. And the most interesting part of the growth, just like we saw on the other chart of the media universe, is the fact that it's in other. So these dominant players, these people you've heard of, YouTube, Hulu, Roku, Pluto, Tubi, they all have a fairly straight line of growth. But who are these others in the blue line? And those others are the fast channels. So the free ad-supported television channels that are programmed like linear television networks will be the ones who capture more of this revenue than the current incumbents. England, digital video investment is somewhat slow or leveling off, but we're seeing that the connected TV users are continuing to grow. This was a February 21 forecast. It'll be interesting to see also the future forecast on that. Interesting also to see that, again, about a 10% rate of growth in the smart TV delivery, and which just sort of makes sense. Any television replacement that is happening is being replaced by a smart TV. So what used to be called the battle for HDMI 1 between the device makers, the battle is effectively over. Anybody who is selling hardware that connects into a television to provide the same functionality as the television has an uphill battle. Notable also that streaming stick devices growing more slowly, right? So whereas 3 years ago that was the growth category, this is what's happening. France, this is a nice one. The important part of this slide, I think, is here on the right. That they label connected TV as 3%. I'd say this is inaccurate because if you look at the set-top box video on demand, which is 45%, that's for the most part IP delivered in France, correct? That's true. So this is an addressable format. This is an addressable platform. So to me, the way I read the chart on the right is that that's actually 48%, or virtually half of it. Again, this is based on total ads served by a single source, so always question your sources, including me. But I think it's important to note also, look what's happening with device ownership, and I thought this was great. You have a massive growth in smart TVs, right? So whatever the replacement schedule is in France for smart TVs, really remarkable. 5% on 30% it's a big number. It's 15%. Streaming sticks growing also at a pretty good clip. I love the fact that game consoles outpace both televisions and streaming sticks in France. Who's a gamer? Yeah, okay, all right. And the question is, will you use your gaming console for content consumption. And it's been a debate for a while, but I'm glad to see my gamer people are here. That's good. Germany, interesting market. I think some of us know, some of us don't. The media business in Germany is somewhat, let's just say, structured, right? There are dominant players, there are dominant publishers, there are dominant distributors, and there are dominant sales houses. But what's fascinating is that if you look at the brands on the right, and if you look at what it is that German consumers are electing to watch, if you add up Sky Go, Discovery, and Samsung TV, which is their own content source, along with Rakuten, Pluto, and Excite, which is a music video service based in the Netherlands, really cool. You should check out Excite. If you add all that up, that's 50%. So the German consumers are actually breaking through what is a fairly rigid media ecosystem into content sources that were not necessarily available before. Connected TV users will continue to grow through 2024. This is a little bit of a dated projection, but probably pretty close. Now let's look at ownership, right? Again, you've got a 10% growth in smart TV ownership. You've got an even bigger growth in the streaming stick devices. Essentially, the German market, being led by consumers, is going to find its way to content, particularly connected TV content, through these devices. Let's talk about South America. Oh, God, South America. An incredibly complex media universe in South America. Lots of countries, lots of different rules, lots of different sources. So if you look at Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico, you'll see that the time spent with streaming for urban internet users, and again, remember that connectivity in South America and Latin America is different, right? It's mostly in the major cities, very hard to get connectivity rurally, which will be changing thanks to the wireless guys. I think interesting to note what's going on in Mexico, that just that sharp climb of digital versus traditional ad spending share. So the business is already moving towards digital platforms, at least in Mexico. And then if you look at OTT across South America, you see that the majority of it is already happening on TV screens. So again, you're starting at a fairly low base, but from a consumer behavior perspective, it's interesting to see. Also, device ownership in Brazil. And I think Brazil is one of those markets that is, we operate there. We have a really good group there making some really good progress. You have a higher penetration and faster growth for connected TV devices than you have in mature markets, both the US, Canada, Western Europe. Right? That's pretty big, right? They went from 60% to a 66% penetration rate of smart TVs. That's higher than any country I think most of us here live in. And also the streaming devices continuing to surge from 22 to almost 29% of households. Again, this kind of growth in this kind of market, hundreds of millions of consumers, that's a big deal. So then if you look at the viewers, I think it's fascinating also that there's more subscription VOD viewing in Brazil than broadcast viewing. So again, behaviorally, this market is already gravitating towards self-directing what it watches when it wants to, and that in and of itself is good, will be good for ad-supported connected TV because these behaviors are already there. Colombia starts at a very low online TV streaming base, and this is what I meant by mobile. And that the viewers in Colombia, now Colombia is a bit of a miracle of an economy in terms of what's happened there over the past 20 years. There is an emerging middle class, upper class, so it's actually going to be a formidable market for media. But you see that starting at a very low online TV streaming rate, and you see that the majority of the viewing is still broadcast. So how does this change? Well, the projection is that this will actually change as bandwidth changes, as 5G and other wireless rolls out. Instead of having residential broadband, these will be wireless connections in most households, right? So high-speed mobile will turn that online TV streaming number from where it is to up where the mobile number is probably in the next 3 years, and this will be very good for the ad-supported streaming business. And then the question is, well, what are all these people going to watch, right? Where is all this content that's supposed to populate all this ad-supported content coming from? And this is kind of the answer. You have traditional broadcasters who are recognizing that they're losing what used to be their share every year, getting paid a certain amount by cable distributors for their networks. I can't believe I'm standing here in Europe and my laptop is ringing. That's fantastic. I want to know who that was. So anyway, traditional linear broadcasters, right? And what they're saying is we need to move our brands onto these connected TV platforms. They're losing share. They're losing advertising revenue. They're losing money they used to count on every year. But and so they're putting them on these branded platforms like Tubi and Pluto. But the important thing is the FAST channels, which are free ad-supported television channels that are not these traditional linear networks, they're coming onto these guides. And I don't know if you've seen them, but the most important thing to watch is the actual guide. It looks just like your cable guide, but now it's populated by networks that never existed on cable. So this is linear viewing that is programmed. It says, here's the network name, and here's the time slot, and here's the name of the program. So the next important thing to note is that traditional desktop publishers, they've been sort of moving. They started out, well, it's based on text, and then it moved to rich media, and then it moved to video. These are the people to watch, particularly the news and information publishers, because they generate so much, right? And when you think about it, their ability to then program a linear network is better than most. And I'll give you an example. Last week, as I was renewing my own Wall Street Journal subscription, first time ever I've seen everything like this. And right now, if you go on the Wall Street Journal site, you can see several hours of content that's recorded. It's done every day. They do it from their newsroom. But this option here, when you engage with WSJ, do you prefer to? So this is the onboarding experience from a newspaper. And they're asking, do you want to read our newspaper? Do you want to listen to our newspaper? Or do you want to watch our newspaper? And I've just never seen that before. To me, that's an indicator that pretty clearly these type of publishers will be coming into the connected TV space because they create that much content. They also have the ability to monetize programmatically. And these are really the people to watch. They're not traditional content programmers, and they're not traditional desktop publishers. These are the FAST channels. And they have a lot of CTV inventory. So, excuse me, Prende TV is the product of Univision, the very large Spanish language broadcaster based in the US. All of those little colored squares, those are individual networks. If you can imagine how expensive it was 10 years ago to launch a cable network, several $100 million to establish a cable network. The barriers of entry to start a linear connected TV network today are virtually nothing, right? As long as you can produce the content. To work with a partner for distribution and get it to your endpoints, the barriers have fallen. Above that, those are networks that belong to a company called Cinedigm, and it includes, these are all based around interest. Right? These are interest-based networks. And if you don't think that the current broadcasters, the people who make content, are noticing this, they're noticing. And you can expect some mergers and acquisitions activity in that world because of it. So here's an interesting example. Somebody you wouldn't think would be a connected TV programmer. So Ubisoft, very large game publisher, is currently publishing connected TV, linear connected TV networks. Essentially because they have so much, not only their professional gaming content, their trailers, user-generated content. These are available in Europe. You can find GTV in Europe. So all I'm trying to communicate is that what you imagine to be the content source for television is going to be radically different in the next 2 years. And then how do you buy and sell it? So in our case, when we go to market, we help publishers understand that we're their partner, right? and that we can help them reach all of these, fast channels, live events. If they have VOD, we can help them reach all of these platforms you see on the bottom. And we organize their content for the advertisers. So what you can see is by interest, family, sports, entertainment, lifestyle. Right? So again, why are they organized this way? Because this is how television is traditionally bought. I know it's difficult for people who live and die by the digital world, that we're seeking audiences and I need this data. But let me tell you, man, hundreds of billions of dollars a year transact around television like this. And this is in Europe, again, sort of just representing, again, context. Context is how television was sold for years. And it seems to be coming back. We heard some interesting stuff about it recently. So then from the buy side, again, it's not that different. Today, the idea for an advertiser who's currently invested in television and digital is to gain incremental reach. I think we heard just in the session before that quite a lot of people can't be found on television anymore. So if you're looking to bolster what you're doing currently in broadcast and digital, you can use connected TV. And I think I've made my colleague Marique happy by being done well in advance of my time. So I got the thumbs up from Marique. So thank you. I appreciate it.